Roxanne Martin from Modern Athletes. I'm here with Piet Wiersma, the 2024 winner of the Comrades Marathon. Piet, it is so great to have you here today. Thank you for taking time out of what I'm sure is a busy schedule
Mm.
to speak to us. We firstly, congratulations. It was an incredible run. We were watching you from start to finish, an interesting run with tactics, but how do you feel having claimed the title?
Um, I mean, obviously, I'm very content with my race, and like you said, it was quite tactical, which is, I think, the main factor that we just missed out on course record, apart from some other things that I will get into later. But yeah, the race just started very slow during the first half, and this was a bit worrying to me because well, I knew, like I need the race to be fast at some point.
Mhm.
Um, you never know what's going to happen if, like you get to the final 10K, let's say, and you're still with five guys or even 10 guys because the race was so slow. So I felt like at some point I'm going to have to make the race fast. And then at the same time, of course, there were still runners like far ahead of us. I remember when we were coming through halfway or even on the top
Yes.
of Inchanga that we were still 10 minutes behind the leader of the race. So yeah, I mean, it was just very slow. I think this was mostly because everybody was expecting somebody else to make a move. After the race, I even spoke to Edward for quite a while, and he was also like, "Yeah, I mean, everybody was just looking at me and Tete and you." And I said to him, like, "Yeah, I was looking at you and Tete." So yeah, nobody really wanted to make a move. Edward was not feeling 100%, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, Tete just didn't want to make a move too early, even though he was definitely still feeling good during that part of the race. Um, so yeah, it was just very slow. But then from halfway, I was like, okay, now I need to push the pace, and I knew I could because I was feeling very strong on the hills due to the work that I've done in Kenya.
Bennington, yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, and then so the second half of the race was just very fast. I think by far fastest second half of the Comrades Up run ever. And yeah, I'm happy I got out on top. And of course, it was mostly due to my performance on little pies and poly shorts around the end of the race. And then after cresting poly shorts, it was like I sped up clearly because it's a relatively easy part of the course, but I was feeling very close to cramping, mostly in my calves, a little bit in my hamstrings, but yeah, calves are definitely the main thing, and I just didn't dare to push the pace too much because for me, everything last Sunday was about winning, and that was by far the most important thing that had to happen, and I wasn't gonna risk the victory just by pushing it too far.
Did
Um,
you did you know how close Dan was behind you? Because
no,
when you came
no.
onto the finishing straight, I mean, he was coming, I mean, he wasn't close behind you, but had you slowed
Yeah.
down more, it would have been a closer to the sprint. So you weren't aware of how close he was behind you.
No, I wasn't even aware it was Dan that was behind me. When I was starting to climb Polly's shorts, I thought it was Tete that was behind me, and turned out like after the race, watching the replay, that was De Gefa who got eventually third. So yeah, I was just pushing my own pace at that point of the race. Like I think last 15 kilometers, I had no idea who was running with me, but I knew there were some guys close. So I was just yeah, I was in front clearly, really dictating the pace, which like I mean you can kind of interpret it in two ways, like me pushing the pace means that the other guys run behind me, and
Mm.
they're kind of like saving energy, so to speak. But at the same time, like it's also my race, it's my strategy, and that can be an advantage. And I knew what I could do because I was still feeling strong. It was like as long as I'm not gonna cramp, I'm gonna finish very strongly here. And that turned out to be the case. But I had no idea that we had dropped Tete at that point. He had some issues with his nutrition, I think,
Yeah.
which is why he broke down so hard. And but yeah, the other guys, the Gefa and Dan, I mean, they were definitely worrying me at the late stages of the race because I just saw how strong they were.
Mm.
And the same for Joseph Magnetti, of course. He was having a very strong race, coming back very late. So I knew we had very strong guys around us. So it was definitely not a run race. Yeah, even when I was climbing polished shorts, it didn't feel like it was one yet. But I knew, like, okay, if I'm strong here, if I don't slow down too much, then I'm gonna do well because, like I said, the up hills were definitely my strength, and clearly the other guys were struggling more than I was on those last couple of climbs.
And after, I don't want to say disappointment of 2023, because you still ran an incredible run and the finish was incredible to watch. I think I've never screamed so hard at a TV for Tete not to look back. Um, but what was that emotion for you crossing that finish line, knowing that you'd overcome that barrier and you'd won the
No,
outrun?
well, I mean, I will say, like, initially it was definitely a disappointment, yes, about missing out just by those 2 seconds, and I think in part this may have been, well, obviously due to the fact that I was so close, but also because I knew, like, okay, winning this race can really change my life. But getting second, like, it's good prize money and everything, but it doesn't change your life completely. Especially for
Mm,
me, I noticed after the race. I mean, obviously, I got a lot of publicity in South Africa, but outside of South Africa, very little. Especially, like in Europe, where I live, in Italy, and
mm,
nobody knows me. In the Netherlands, very few people know me, especially back then. So yeah, it didn't change my life completely. Like, also after the race, still didn't get sponsors, but yeah, the prize money got me through through the year, so I didn't
yes.
have to find a job. I graduated in November, so it just gave me more space to work towards the next phase. And I think, like, yeah, disappointment was probably my first thought. Then there was obviously like a certain pride as well. Like, it was by far the biggest achievement of my career at that point. Um, but still, I mean, it was difficult to smile on some of the pictures, and people noticed that, of course. Yeah, because I was still feeling like, okay, it could have been more. Even though Tato, I definitely believe he was the better athlete that day. I think by far. But I just ran a good race. I pushed at the right times at the end. And if I had pushed a little bit sooner, maybe I could have won that race. And that's difficult, of course. And then there was, mm, no, I don't remember what I was gonna say, but it was yeah, kind
But
of mixed
then,
feelings at the time. But still,
coming
of
to
course.
this year, and crossing that line, knowing that you'd achieved what you'd set out to achieve,
Mm.
just take me through the emotions that you felt at that very moment.
Coming back this year.
Yeah, when you won this year,
Oh
when you
yeah,
crossed the
yeah.
finish line. Yeah.
No, I mean, it definitely felt like this was something that was gonna change my life significantly. Because also before the race, well, I told many people a story. Like, 2 months before the race, I went to Kenya to train for 6 weeks. That was um, that was my first training camp in 5 years. So last year I
Mm,
didn't do any training camp whatsoever. Just trained in Italy where I lived, and mostly just running flat because I was initially actually training for a 100K world record attempt. So I did all my training flat, and then only during those last 4 weeks that I had time for free hill workouts, which were quite extreme. So they definitely prepared me well for the downhills. But it was clear that I wasn't that strong on the uphills. Whereas this year, so going to Kenya, training full time for the first time in my life, just felt very different. But mostly I enjoyed it very much. Most of the time I wasn't even trying to think too much ahead to Comrades, which is, like, me being in the moment, trying to be the best athlete I can be, just living there, away from everything, away from social media, away from academics, like I said, because I graduated. So I was feeling very little stress. And yeah, just, like, all the focus was on training. Every morning we would wake up at 6 a.m. To run. Then afterwards we'd have big breakfast, and I would sleep. I would have lunch. Sometimes I would sleep again, and then we would do a recovery run, and the next day, like, you repeat the same process.
mm.
That was just a very disciplined schedule, but that just felt very good for me, like both physically as well as mentally, because it gave me the confidence that I was doing the right thing, and I could also notice, like every week I am improving significantly. I got used to altitude very fast, but also just getting close to some of those very, very fast runners around you, some of the best runners of the world training Kaptagat, and just being part of that. At least also for some workouts during the week, especially on Tuesday morning, I would join Kipchoge's group. But it's not just Kipchoge's group, but like many runners from the area.
Yes.
There's professional runners that join this group just to push each other. Just being part of that just felt I felt very grateful and blessed to be able to do that in the first place, and it was just very inspiring. And I think, yeah, um, yeah, coming into Comrades, I very much had this thought like, okay, if I'm gonna win this race, I'll be able to do this for longer. And right now, I already feel so much better than I ever have. I feel like I've trained so much better, like I'm so much sharper, also mentally and everything. And yeah, just that just made me want to push this project for longer, but I knew, like if I'm not going to run well from comrades, then there's no way I'll be able to do this. But if I win, I will have this opportunity, like financially, just to come back here for longer, at least with the prize money and hopefully like a few sponsors. So we'll see how that goes. But but yeah, that was, I think, one of my main motivations, just to win that race, to be able to become a full-time athlete in the first place. And secondly, it was yeah, like I said, unfinished business last year, and I promised to myself that I had to win this race. I promised some other people in the past, and it felt like something I just had to do for myself. Yeah, also for
So,
a certain kind of mental peace, perhaps. I don't know.
so what I get from that is running is really your solitude, and it's where your life direction wants you to go. And that for you is, I think it's beautiful that you can go to Kenya where literally it's salt and earth. There's no big Olympic tracks, there's no, ma amazing facilities. It's, just down and out, and all they do is live, breathe, and run.
Yeah, for me that
Um,
was the beautiful thing about Kaptagat for sure, that it's very small. There
mm,
are very few foreigners there, like as opposed to E10. E10 is really this big, quite a big town that's very famous, of course, worldwide. And you see many international runners there, and of course, I mean, this is also an advantage, like there's people pushing each other, but at the same time, Kaptagat is much more off the grid. It's very
mhm.
small. It's kind of like a military camp. You have a few small shops. You have farmers that live there, and you have professional athletes. Basically, those two groups. And yeah, just yeah, for me that felt very much like just an opportunity to get away from things and just to focus on this pursuing this passion of mine, and mostly just preparing as well as possible for comrades. And for me, that was the perfect formula, I think.
So you say this passion of yours, when did you discover this passion? Because in 2021 you ran 100K. In 2022 you came third in the 100K World Champs. What was it, at what age did you decide that, running is where I want to go, and then put all your effort into it?
Well, I think I've had this passion for a long time. Even when I started like officially track and field when I was 5, almost 6,
Mm-hmm.
just with the local athletics club. And I remember, like at some point I got this interview from our athletics club, just for the club magazine, basically. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember at some point, I think my dad even did the interview, and he asked me this question, like, "Well, what's your main motivation?" And my answer was like, "I am mostly for fun and a little bit for the Olympic Games." And so already at that time, I was thinking big. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I ever had like excessive talent or anything. Like I was really not really winning things, even locally, not really. But I knew that it was like, okay, long distance running is definitely my thing. And when I was 15, I decided to, like combine school and sports in a dedicated school. And I trained, or I joined a certain team And that was kind of my first contact with really, like trying to the first steps to becoming like a elite athlete,
Mm-hmm.
like training, um, well, dedicating your life to this thing basically. And at the time, still, um, I was making progress, but still I wasn't winning much. And I basically continued this first for 3 years. Then I finished high school. Then I continued with one of my coaches for 1 year. Then after that year, like that was my first year of university, I went back to my old team, but like while doing my bachelor's degree, basically. And yeah, just continue doing the same thing, but really the conventional distances, so 5 and 10K were basically my specializations. But again, on a national level, I wasn't really performing well. And then in
Mm.
2019, I just had like a disappointing season kind of, and then at some point, even more disappointing race. And then afterwards, I talked to my coach at the time, Guido, and I said, like it's not gonna happen, like I don't have the talent to make it on the international stage. And yeah, it's just not enough what I'm doing. Like I'm pushing very hard, I'm working very hard. Mentally, if I had improved, I felt like I had improved a lot. So it wasn't just that, it was just I felt like I was missing something physically. So then I was like, okay, um, especially in the car trip back, we talked for a lot, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a big change. I want to move up in distance, and but I wasn't like, okay, I'm gonna move up to another conventional distance, the marathon, because the idea was always that I would move up to the marathon because I knew, like the longer the distance gets, the better I get.
Mm.
Also, like training in the week, the mile, like one of my main qualities is basically like being easily able to take a lot of mileage and to profit from this as a runner. So I already knew this at the time, but I was like, okay, I really want to make a big change. So then I decided to change to ultra. So 1 week after basically running my last 5K race, I ran a 60-kilometer trail. So without any specific training, but I won this trail. And then the next month I went to the southern German Alps and Austrian Alps, also without mountain training, but I still managed to win this race just because, like long distances, like I said, were my thing. And on the uphills, I was definitely losing a lot, but on the downhills and the flats, I was just faster than the other guys. And then I won this race. And then the next month, I decided to run 100K on the road in
Mm.
Winschoten. So this was still 2019, like less than 3 months after deciding to start ultra running. And then I got like third nationally, I think.
Yes.
So that was like right now it would have been a training run, but at the time, like it took a lot. It was like 7:40 or something in this range, 7:39, I think. And then after this, I didn't do races for 2 years. I went to Russia for a while, like at the end of my degree. And then the year after, basically in 2020, I graduated and I moved to Italy. But it was only until the end of 2021, like exactly 2 years after that race, that I did my next race again. And I actually was planning on doing trail running, but I couldn't get a medical certificate. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna go back to the Netherlands. I'm gonna do this exact same race. And then it just turned out better than expected because I hadn't done a lot of consistent training in Italy. But still, I was quite passionate, especially being able to train in Italy for the first time, also being able to run in the mountains and such. Basically, only having done trail training, and then all of a sudden you're doing a 100K road race. But still, I managed to run 6:49, which was an okay time, and of course, it allowed me to qualify for the World Championships in 2022. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna train a bit more consistently. At the time, I was still coaching myself ever since starting ultra, like up until
Mm.
those World Championships. I always coached myself, did always all my workouts alone. And then yeah, the year after, I managed to get third on those World Championships after a long period of injury and everything. But um, so I didn't really train that well. I didn't manage to run more than 100 kilometers a week, really. But still managed to get third just because mentally I pushed myself so hard during that race, and it was just I ran a bit more of a consistently paced race than most of the other guys. So it was really, like the maximum that I was capable of at the time. But afterwards, I already knew, like, okay, I performed something on the world stage in ultra running right now, even though my training was very, very imperfect. So if I'm gonna train more consistently, a bit more professionally, then I'll be able to perform better. And that's kind of where the initial idea of running Comrades came about. And then also I got in contact with my current coach, who since then made my training schedule. So I started doing some speed work again afterwards, and just my training schedule got a bit more complete. Although I'm still training, doing all my training myself, actually, except for Kenya. Like all of my training in the last 5 years has been alone.
Mm.
But just, like having every year, just having more consistency and making your training a bit more complete just has allowed me to progress a lot since let's say 2021. Just making big steps every single year, and that's also how I ended up getting second at Comrades last year, despite like a lack of hill workouts. And then this year, like I took it even more seriously, even more professionally. I did have some issues, like after Comrades last year, I had a double
Yep,
Achilles injury
Achilles. Yes.
for about half a year. So only in December that I was kind of able to run a little bit again, but still it was yeah, not a lot. And then I went to Sicily for a while, also kind of as a celebration for finishing my degree the month before. I'd never been to the south of Italy, even though I had lived in Italy for more than 3 years at the time.
Yeah.
And then I went backpacking there, just hiking the island basically. But then I just did too much. I made too many miles every day, and then I think my last complete day of hiking, I just pushed it so far that I was walking from early in the morning to late in the evening, and I did so many mountains and everything, and sometimes I would even just run on on the downhills with my huge backpack. And so then I got a tear in both my shins actually, but mostly on the left side. It was quite bad in my tibia muscle. So then I kind of had to back off from running again. But I think maybe this was a blessing in disguise, because it also gave my Achilles tendons, like the time to recover completely.
So
Um,
you
so
did, so you did all the hiking with the tear in both your Achilles.
no, I mean, no, no, not my Achilles tendons. So my Achilles tendons
Oh,
were
were they
relatively
healed at the
okay.
time? Yes.
My Achilles tendons
Okay.
were relatively okay at the time. Like still, I did some jogging even in Sicily. And like at the end of a 10K, I could notice that they were kind of starting to hurt again. So that's why I'm
Mm.
saying, like, having like another injury, but now on my shins, that it's at least at the end of the hike. So really, really the last day that I really pushed it too much, and then it was already kind of beginning, like this initial pain in my shins, but it wasn't bothering me too much. But then because it pushed it so far that last day, that it was just really torn the tibia muscle, and they were just so swollen at the end of the day. And then the next day I wake up, and I was like, okay, my trip is over, but I was still, like somewhere in the Sicilian mountains in the middle of nowhere, in some town. And yeah, there's no public transport there, so I still had to walk like 17 kilometers to the sea, like with those torn shins, just to get the train back to Palermo. And yeah, I mean the pain was so bad. I remember, like I got nauseated just from the pain, but I managed, like a couple hours of hiking, and then just getting back to Palermo, and then I stayed there for a couple more days. But yeah, this definitely required some time to recover. But I think so having to heal from this shin injury like helped me heal my Achilles tendons a little bit better, because they just got more time. And at the same time, the other thing is, of course, like Bruce Ford has sometimes I think he has been quoted as saying that yeah, if you get like an injury like early in the year, like around January or something, it's not always bad, because it just means that like your real comrades build up starts a bit later, which
Mm.
means you're probably not going to do too much, and like early on in the year, which means you're probably going to be fresher in comrades.
Mm.
So sometimes it's like in a year like this, your peak, like maybe 4 months later, actually managed to be at its highest. And I kind of felt that, although I felt like at the time, like starting to run from February again, like my training in Italy was nothing special, and I wasn't really feeling very inspired.
Mm.
And then I was like, okay, I graduated in November. I have some more time. I was only applying to PhDs at the time, which still it definitely takes some time. But at the same time, I was like, okay, I do have this time right now to go somewhere and train. So it really felt like kind of like the stars aligned for me to go to Kenya, go back to Kenya because I'd been there once before, like 5 years before. And then I contacted like an old friend of mine, and he called me back and he said like, okay, you can stay in my house, which basically like one room without running water or hot water. So very basic, but I don't know. I felt really inspired going back there, and it was, of course, a bit of a calculated risk I'm taking for multiple reasons. Because first of all, you don't really know what to expect, or if you can even manage, like to live like that. Or I didn't even know the guy that well before my training camp in Kenya. And now all of a sudden we were gonna share a room together for 6 weeks. But it turned out to be very good. Like we did most of our workouts together, just the two of us, and like I said, some bigger workouts we would do with Kipchoge's group, but like not that many.
Mm.
But definitely this gave me some chance to well train a lot of speed during those fartlek workouts, and just like I said, it's inspiring, and you just push yourself that much harder basically, and yeah, it just turned out very well in the end.
So in your mind, would you like to spend more time in Kenya and pursue that training further, just going off the grid and just immersing yourself in the running experience?
Yeah, like I indicated, it was this was actually one of my biggest motivations for Comrades as well. Just because I was feeling so much, yeah, in the right place. Let's say in Kenya, I was like, okay, I want to be come back here for longer. Like even though we were practically living in poverty, like very very simple accommodation, and like the people around there just are training so hard, primarily because they don't have money, because they don't own anything, and because running is like the way, um, yeah, to the way out of that, like in the way to survive, like in that was what my friend Jose also taught me several times, like you have guys that have had success in the past, like, and now they have like this luxury, like the guys from NN running team, like with Kipchoge and some of the others. Like every weekend they would go, like they would have a hard workout on Saturday, and then they would go back to their families, like to their homes, and then on Monday evening they would come back again in Kattegat, because on Tuesday morning they would we would have the like the fartlek workout, so the next very hard workout of the week. But it was like, yeah, I mean, we're just staying in Kaptagat, like we're not running just for now whatever they're running for, like for glory, or because it's fun, or running for life. And that's also how it felt to me, like it felt like I was running for my life, and they were running for their life, and just like having this conviction kind of, yeah, gives you somewhat of an edge, I think, and gives you, wouldn't even say the motivation, but like the need to perform every single day, and to improve every week, and it just keeps you sharp in a way, like knowing that, okay, all the details just need to be correct, and I cannot afford distractions. I need my rest. I need my training. I need to eat well. Um, just because the stakes are so high, and I think this definitely added something.
Now, how did you come to find out about Comrades in the first place? Because you are on the other side of the world, and obviously we have that international runners that have grown to fame in Comrades. But
Mm.
how did Comrades come on your radar?
Well, basically what I said, like when I was running the World Championships in 2022,
Mm-hmm.
um, I was like, okay, this is the World Championship, so it's the biggest thing I can do basically on ultra running. But then you get third, and it was by far the biggest achievement of my career at the time, and I was very very happy and proud that it worked out, especially like after the problematic training that I'd had, like several injuries, like double Achilles injury, like 2 months
Mm.
before, stress fracture 1 month before the race, and I just kept on running on it. So it was very, very painful. At the same time, so it was, like I knew this victory is just because I was mentally very strong and because I just pushed so much harder than the other guys. But then afterwards, like I started talking, like with my current coach, but also with some of the other runners like Guillaume Revel. He was the big favorite that day, but he just went out too fast. So in the end, he actually finished behind me in fifth place.
Mm.
But yeah, we started talking, and we also became friends after this. And I was like, okay, what are you gonna do next year? And it was like, yeah, I mean, maybe go for Comrades, because it's the biggest ultra marathon in the world, at least on the road. And yeah, it's massive. And like I had heard about Comrades before, but never really considered it, or considered it as the biggest ultra marathon in the world. But then I realized, okay, um, like I said, right now I've gotten third in on the World Championships with very limited training, so I think I might be able to do well on this world stage. So I just wanted something bigger at the time, and that's when I already have decided basically to go do Comrades, and then like basically a week later, kind of finalize the decision. Okay, I'm gonna go for this. And yeah, throughout that build up, I also ran my first marathon in February that year in Sevilla. I ran
Mm.
like 2:18, but it was just after less than 2 months build up because, like I said, I was already injured in my build up to the World Championships. So afterwards, it needed quite a long time to recover. Stress fracture, not even so much. It healed relatively fast, but mostly the Achilles injury just took a long time. So this was definitely my weakness, and maybe still is my weakness right now. But one of the advantages about training in Kenya is that you're doing so much on the dirt roads and lots of hills, and there's just more variation, let's say. And I
Mm-hmm.
could notice that, like, okay, if I rest enough and I pay attention to this, I get a regular massage, um, and just do a lot of work on the dirt roads, then I'm not getting injured. Because in Kenya, I never had any any issue whatsoever with injuries or even beginning injuries. I was just, even though I was running more than I'd ever had in my life, even though I was doing harder workouts than ever, I was never close to getting injured, and that, like, it's just one more confirmation for me that this formula that we that we had in Kenya was the right one for me.
And just going to the experience of Comrades, I mean, the streets are lined in multiple places with so many people, and people are screaming, and people, how was that for you? Were you able to take any of it in? I mean, especially this year, them knowing who you were. Last year you were unknown. This year knowing who you were, did you feel the support on the race day? Was it something special?
No, 100%. Like, appearances can be elusive because I am relatively well known for, like, being quite stoic during a race, like for not changing my facial expression, for just basically running first part of the race the same way I run the last part of the race. And so I don't really respond to the audience during the race. I don't respond really to other runners. I don't enjoy, or I prefer not to talk a lot during
Mm.
races, whether it's like, like informal talks, talking about nothing in the early parts of the race because you still have a lot of energy, or even, like tactical discussions during a race. For me, it's just, like it doesn't add anything. It's not going to make you run faster, but it can take some energy, but mostly it can take away some of the focus. So I'm just
Mm.
okay. I focus on doing my own thing, and for me, just the best way to run is to run stoically and not really change my expression or, like, yeah, my attitude, let's say. Um, like, regardless of how I'm feeling. So this is also something that has come about through meditation, because I started meditating, I think in 2020 when I when I had COVID. Actually, I was in lockdown, and right now I meditate every day, and it's just, like, it's a certain mindset that you get. Like, you're open to all these sensations that you're feeling, like positive and negative, but you're not really responding to them. You're just opening to
Mm,
them. You just take them in as neutral sensations, let's say, regardless of whether they're positive or negative. So also when you get to that pain in the race, like my facial expression doesn't change because I just open up to these feelings. And I think it's the same, like with the crowd support. Like I definitely feel it. So don't think I don't appreciate the support just because I look the same. I don't really respond to this. I don't really wave. I don't really smile to people. But it doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. I don't feel it because I definitely do. And like I said after the race, like it gave me a lot of energy just being there and getting so much support. And it's very inspiring. Like even when you're running the race, it's very inspiring just having all the support along the race. And I felt this last year, especially during the late parts of the race. So many people are just shouting at you, and they're getting excited, because
mm,
you're doing something that nobody expected you to do. You're in the front parts of the race, and there's just such a big audience that is just, like living and breathing this race almost as much as we are as runners. And yeah, that means, of course, you feel this and you become part of this, like collective sensation, I would say. But this year it was incomparable, like compared to last year, like the amount of support that I was getting because people knew me beforehand. And I said before the race, like for me, it doesn't change anything, like being known right now, being one of the favorites versus being unknown last year and nobody expecting anything from me. Because the only thing that matters to me is what's in my mind. And like I said, last year I entered this race very confident about my ability. So in my mind, I felt like I was already the favorite to win this race, even though I was the only one with this expectation. And now this year, many people had the same expectation, or at least had me written down as one of the favorites.
mm.
But for me, it didn't change anything. It was just I entered last year. In my mind, I was the favorite. This year, I enter in my mind, I'm the favorite. Um, and yeah, it's the same kind of mindset, like just doing your own thing. And this also links into, like the way I run also the last stages of my race, when I'm leading this group, when I'm pushing the pace, I don't look to the other guys. I don't need to discuss tactics with the other guys. Also, they don't discuss tactics with me because they all speak Tswana, because they
Mm.
train together. Like they speak the same language. They're not going to speak English during a race. It's not their first language, so why would they? Um, so yeah, I don't even try to be part of that. So I just try to run my own race and yeah, like different from the way Tete ran last year. Like he was looking very much around his shoulder, just trying to keep an eye on me and or possibly other guys that were pursuing him. Um, I don't really try to care about this during the last part of the race. I just know if I run, like the best race that I can,
Mm-hmm.
then I have the biggest chance of winning this race. So why would I look over my shoulder if it's just gonna distract me, like from the task that I need to do as a runner? And at the same time, like I had this confidence that I was uh, very much in a position to win this race at the late stages because I felt so strong on the uphills. And of course I knew this thing that Kieran Walker, like he keeps pressing this upon me, like, yeah, when you reach the top of Polly Shorts and you're in first place, you're probably not going to lose because nobody in Comrades history has ever lost, like cresting Polly Shorts in first. And so, yeah, this is basically how I approach this race. But yeah, to get back to your question, I very much appreciated this audience support, and it's very inspiring. And it's I think what sets Comrades apart so much from all these other races in the world is just in very much a big part just this support that you're getting from this entire country. Like it's being broadcast on national TV or even international TV,
Mm.
and basically within the country, like most people are probably watching it at some point and many people are at the sidelines as well, like thousands and thousands of people, and then 20,000 people compete, like, and there's a very strong elite field, so that it's probably by far um, the most competitive ultra race in the world, and yeah, so Comrades is its own animal, like it's so special, and I love it for sure.
And which would you say is your favorite, the up or down?
It's difficult to say. I think I enjoyed both.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I was definitely lucky that last year was a down run, because like I said, I had very little hill training. But like, like by nature, I'm already quite strong on the downhills, especially back then because I have quite big quadriceps, so I'm able to take those
Down.
beatings quite well. And
Mm-hmm.
just my technique running down is quite efficient. And so last year I knew that was my strength. Also, like during the three big hill workouts that I did, my focus was mostly on those downhills and just pushing down very, very hard. I ran this one hill in Turin. It's like about 500 meters high, or at least
Mm-hmm.
that's a difference. Turin is at 200 meters sea level, and the top was just about 700 meters sea level. And on the top you have the Basilica di Superga. It's like a very big and well-known church in Turin. So we just run up there over the trails, like it's just quite steep. It's about over 4 kilometers. It climbs, like 500 meters, and then like you start running down, and that was really when I started pushing it. Like I never stopped during the workout. So after the climb, I would initially start running. I would instantly start running down over the
Mm-hmm.
roads, so not over the trails. Just and then just push it very hard. So at some point in one of those workouts, I even ran 5 kilometers downhill in I think 13:16 or something. So that's like, I don't know, half minute from the 5K world record on the road. So which just gave me, like the confidence, like, okay, my speed is pretty good for an ultra runner. And but mostly just my legs were taking a beating, just very, very good. So I was very lucky that was a downhill last year. But then again, I enjoyed both. But this year, just like I adjusted my training based on what I needed to do in the race. And this year, what I needed to do most was to run strong on the uphills, because that was where the race was going to be decided. I knew this beforehand. And I think the big difference between last year and this year was that last year I may have been able to win, but I definitely was not the best athlete in the field.
Mm.
And this year, coming into the race, I felt like I was the best athlete in the field. So this, of course, gave me additional confidence that I could win the race.
And when you see the finishes that come in the last hour, I mean, a lot of the race finishes in the last hour. How does that inspire you with these normal people taking normal day jobs? I mean, you put yourself through school, you trained, you did everything above and beyond. What would your message be to those that are not the elite runners, the runners that are coming in the back of the pack that are running every step that you did,
Yeah.
albeit not as fast? What would you say to those runners?
Well, mostly, and I told this the other guys before. I have a very big respect for these people. Like I cannot even imagine, like running, like waking up uh probably at 3 a.m. like we
Hmm.
did, or I was probably awake at 2:30, and then you start running at 5:30, probably after a bad night's rest, and then you're just running the entire day. So you start when it's still dark, and you finish the race when it's getting dark. And yeah, I think it takes us so much mental grit in a way that's different from the kind of grit that we need to have. Like we, of course, it's not easy to run comrades very fast in 5 hours and a bit, and you need to really know how to push at the end of the race. But running for 11 hours or almost 12 hours or even 9 or 10, like I think I would have a very tough time doing it personally. And yeah, just what you're saying, like there are people with day jobs, there are people that they're probably mostly not running every day, and their lives are not, like built around running the way my life is, the way some of the
Mm,
other competitors' lives are. And yeah, still being able to, like finish a race like this, and just run for between 11 and 12 hours. It's astonishing, I think. And of course, what plays into making this maybe slightly easier is the fact that, like it's a very big race, and there are so many people along the sidelines. I'm not the only person enjoying this support. Also, they are, of course.
mm,
And that's, to me, is very inspiring, because Comrades is not just, like the most competitive ultra race in the world, but it's just so much more, like you have, like this elite competition in the front that I was part of, but then you still have, like the entire event that's still going on, that's not even halfway, and you still have, like 20,000 runners coming through, and that's astonishing. I think for an ultra event, it's definitely unique in the entire world, and I think that's very inspiring. And so maybe as a message, um, yeah, I would just say, like you make this event possible, like you make this event what it is by running this race, and I've very much respect to all of you, like just for being able to do this while managing, like your lives, while managing your jobs, while taking care of your family, basically. Like it's it's probably a lot harder than what I'm doing, which is just, like I'm just leading my own life. I don't have a family that I need to take care of. Right now I don't have a job that I need to focus on. I don't even like I said, I already graduated. I don't even have a degree or a degree to pursue, at least right now.
Mm,
So yeah, for me it's probably even easier. So so no, it's beautiful to see.
thank you. And then will we be seeing you in Comrades 2025?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, such a big congratulations. It was an incredible run. It was incredible to see. I was glued to my TV screen from start to finish, and I really commend the way you ran because I think it took a lot of strength and courage to hang back as long as you did. But congratulations. We hope that the sponsorships fly in and that you are fully sponsored by the time you start Comrades 2025. And we look forward to following your career and seeing what's next for you.
Yeah, thanks so much for the invite. I really enjoyed the interview. And yeah, I mean, I have the same goals, of course. So next year, I still have some unfinished business. Like I said, I want to win. I want to run course record. Of course, I've never run the down run, so it's so like I hope I will be able to next year. It's gonna take a lot of training, but this is the part that I'm really looking forward for. Like winning comrades is an amazing feeling. It doesn't compare probably to anything else. But at the same time, what's really gonna make you happy in the end is just like the day-to-day process. And I was enjoying that so much in Kenya. Like this day-to-day process of starting early and just dedicating my entire day to running and to resting and everything. I just enjoy the process a lot, and I think that's the most important thing for sustainability as well. So so yeah, I will be back for sure, and I think even better prepared, and yeah, hopefully with some sponsors, but we'll see.